And it is with this episode that we finally close the gap. So guys, let's talk about Starcrushed, the final episode of Star vs. the Forces of Evil Season 2. The episode opens with Marco at a party for the end of the school year at his house, and he's looking at it as if through a tunnel. Everything feels distant, nothing feels quite real, as tends to happen when one's sense of normalcy is completely shattered. It takes Jackie to kind of bring him back into reality, but it's not entirely successful, as he does, through the rest of the party, continue to dwell on what happened at Star's Song Day celebration. Meanwhile, Star is still running away from the problem. She calls up Ponyhead, Jana, Kelly, and Starfan. They decide that she just needs to try to move on, so they take her to a different party, one that the more edgy kids from the school are throwing. And it's there that she bumps into Oscar, her old crush, and she finally gets to actually hang out with him for an extended period of time. She seems to enjoy herself, but eventually she does return home, realizing that she needs to talk to Marco, no matter how awkward it feels to do so. Meanwhile, just like in the previous episode, another plot is running alongside this one. As I had hoped, Queen Moon seems to have settled things with the Magic Council. They're working together. They storm Ludo's new fortress, which used to be Toffee's castle, I guess, and they overwhelm Ludo in seconds. Every one of them is in top form. Dude didn't stand a chance. This, though, is when he reveals that since the day that he looked at the forbidden chapter of the spellbook, his wand has stopped working and Glossaric has disappeared. He's basically been living as a hermit in this fortress, with nowhere else to go. Toffee seems to be gone. The consciousness of Toffee seems to have left his body. And while the other Magic Council members search the rest of the fortress for Glossaric and the book, Queen Moon stays behind and talks to Ludo, and it's clear that she really does care about him and wants things to be better for him. And it really does seem like he might want the same thing, that he might actually accept her help. That's when Goatman, whose name I don't remember, which makes me feel really bad considering what happens in a few minutes, happens upon the spellbook and finds it to be blank. It's immediately assumed by him and the other Magic Council members that it's not the real book, but we know what actually happened by the end of the episode, even if they don't spell it out for us. Because we do see just a second later that Toffee has reasserted control over Ludo. He even merges the wand with Ludo's body. And he has absorbed all the magic from Queen Moon and left her basically comatose on the ground. The other Magic Council members attack him, but with Queen Moon's power, he's just too much for them. Omnitraxus goes down first, having all his power sapped away. Romulus and Hecapoo try to fight him, but he keeps absorbing some of their power too. Meanwhile, Lekmet, his name's Lekmet. Lekmet stays back and rejuvenates them. He seems to have the ability to restore their magic. But it's not enough. Toffee's just becoming more and more powerful. So Lekmet, he makes one desperate attempt, rejuvenating Queen Moon. But that last act seems to have cost him his life. He turns to dust, only his horn remaining. Moon realizes that she's actually fighting Toffee. She kind of realizes what's going on. She goes all out, transforming into her puberty form, using every ounce of her magic. But it's not enough. Toffee tanks it all. So she does the only thing she can. She creates a distraction and gets everybody else out of there and escapes via portal. This is when the plots converge. Star has actually spoken to Marco now. She insists that she doesn't actually have a crush on him and just wants things to go back to normal. But that's when she goes back upstairs and her mom is waiting for her there to take her back to Muni because Toffee has returned. She tells Star that Toffee's returned and that they're in great danger. And so Star doesn't intend to fight back. She intends to go. So she goes back downstairs and in front of everybody finally admits that she does have a crush on Marco. And everybody reacts to it in various different ways. And then she leaves and Marco runs upstairs to try to follow her and we see her room turn back to normal. And that's just where the episode leaves it. And I really liked how this was handled, how these converging plots were handled. Because you have the objectively much more serious plot back on Muni, and they handled it in a really interesting way. Up to this point, we've seen almost every single stage of Ludo's journey. And now suddenly we learn that things have changed so drastically for him. And audience members' first question at hearing that might be, well, why weren't we shown this? And the answer is, because it didn't actually happen. What actually happened, at least seemingly so, is that Toffee absorbed Glossaric. He absorbed the magic from the book. That's why the pages were blank. That was his plan all along, and then he went into hiding so that Ludo could lure the Magic Council in, or at least a member of them, or maybe just the Queen, enough that Toffee could absorb some more power and get things started. Now he's got untold amounts of magic in him, and despite the fact that the rules of this universe and how magic works are a little gray, that's still an impressive enough threat that the gravity of the situation hits home immediately. Everything is different. Everything has changed, which is fitting, because that's what the other plot is about. The fact that everything changes and Sometimes you can't go back to normal. Sometimes you just have to move on and accept that there is a new normal. That's why I specifically mentioned the very opening of the episode where Marco feels disconnected from everything around him. His perspective on the world is actively shifting. Star, spending time with Oscar, she has a good time, but she doesn't have any feelings for him anymore. She even finds some of the things that he does that she used to find endearing to be kind of cringy. And that is because she has moved on from that part of her life. She's grown beyond that person that she used to be. She will never be that person again. And as difficult a thing as it is to admit, her friendship with Marco will never be the same again. Marco's friendship with her will never be the same again. And I have a sneaking suspicion that Marco's relationship with Jackie will never be the same again either. Everything has changed. People's worlds have been shifted. And I think that's fitting, considering that in the other plot from this episode, things have happened which may literally shift worlds. Overall, this was very much a build-up episode. The last one was too, but not quite as much. The last one at least had the focus. It had the song day. This one was just here to build stuff up and prepare us for the coming story. There are a lot of plot threads here that are left loose, dangling, and at best, partially resolved. And considering all the good things that I've heard about Battle for Muni, I do expect it to resolve at least most of them, and further all of them, in one way or another. There is the possibility that this has been so hyped for me at this point that I'm going to be let down. I really hope that isn't the case. Just so you guys know, I did mention that I was spoiled on a very small thing a couple reviews ago, and a lot of you guys were freaking out. You were really upset that that happened. I do want to make it clear, no one spoiled it for me. I spoiled it for myself. Accidentally. I was looking for a list of episode titles and accidentally saw a synopsis of this episode and saw that Star does tell Marco about her feelings. That's what I was spoiled on. That's it. It was my fault. You guys don't have to form a lynch mob. I know a couple of you offered. Thank you for that. I've never had anybody offer to form a lynch mob for me before. It was very touching. But honestly, that's the thing I saw coming. It was everything else in this episode that I didn't see coming. It was very, very pleasantly surprising. I loved this episode. I thought it was great. I thought the themes of change and permanent change, the complete dismissal of the status quo, was a refreshing change in child's entertainment today. Guys, if you have seen this episode of Star vs. the Forces of Evil, what did you think of it? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below or over on my Discord. Link in the description. And keep in mind that I do need to set a time for my live reaction to Battle for Muni. My plan is to hopefully do it tomorrow. Tomorrow, of course, being a Monday, though there is the possibility that a lot of you guys would prefer I do it on a weekend. So let's talk about it in the comment section below and over in my Discord and try to work out what is the best time for me to do this. I will be watching each episode and then discussing each of them a little bit, so it's going to eat up a decent amount of time. Keep in mind, I do work on Eastern time. Keeping that in mind, let me know what would be the best time for you guys, and I'll try to find a happy average. I would like to get to it as quickly as possible, but I am willing to wait for the weekend if that would work best for you. Either way, though, guys, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you later.